So, you're a contractor and you've got your sights set on some projects in the beautiful state of Wyoming. Well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down everything you need to know about the state's pretty unique bonding requirements, especially for non residents. Now, Wyoming is packed with opportunity, for sure. But before you even think about breaking ground, you have to know that the state, well, it plays by its own set of rules. And this is especially true for out of state contractors. Honestly, getting this right from the very beginning is the key to making sure your project goes off without a hitch. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into what I like to call Wyoming's contractor paradox. Then we'll get into the specific bonds for non-residents. After that, we'll touch on other state and local compliance stuff, see how Wyoming stacks up against its neighbors, and then we'll wrap it all up with a super simple compliance checklist. Okay, let's kick things off with this contractor paradox. It's really just a massive difference in the rules that all boils down to one simple question. Is your business based in Wyoming or somewhere else? And when you see it side by side, the difference is, well, it's striking. If you're a resident contractor, there are basically no state-level licensing or bonding requirements. But for non-residents, it is a completely different world. You're looking at mandatory state wage bonds and tax bonds. To put it simply, where your company calls home completely changes the game for you in Wyoming. So what exactly are these mandatory bonds for out-of-staters? Let's break down the two main state-level bonds you've got to know about. Think of them like a financial guarantee, a promise to the state that you're going to play by the rules and protect its workers and financial interests. All right, first up is the non-resident employer bond. You'll probably hear this called a wage bond pretty often. And as the name suggests, this one is all about protecting local employees. So how's it work? Well, if you're a non-resident employer and your monthly payroll for your local Wyoming employees goes over $4,000, you need this bond. The purpose is super clear. It's there to guarantee that your Wyoming workers get paid, no matter what. It's a critical financial safety net required by the state. Now, the bond amount isn't just some flat fee. It scales up right alongside your monthly payroll. It starts at $8,000 as soon as you hit that $4,000 wage mark, and it just climbs from there. For example, if you've got a $20,000 monthly payroll, you're going to need a $40,000 bond. The bigger your local payroll, the bigger the bond has to be. Okay, on to the second big requirement for out-of-state contractors, the non-resident sales tax bond. This one is all about making sure the state gets its tax revenue from your project. This bond is actually pretty straightforward. It's designed to guarantee that the state of Wyoming receives all the sales and use taxes it's owed from your project. And the amount is a fixed rate. It's always 4% of your total contract value. This applies to every single non-resident contractor. Doesn't matter what your payroll is. You can see the math is direct and predictable. Say you land a $100,000 project, you'll need a $4,000 bond. If you've got a $500,000 project, that means a $20,000 bond. And for a big $1 million contract, you're looking at a $40,000 bond. But wait, there's more. These state bonds are just one piece of the compliance puzzle. For non-residents, you also have to deal with two other really important things: Wyoming's very unique workers' comp system and all the different local city rules. Okay, listen up, because this is a huge one. Wyoming is one of only 4 states with an exclusive state-run workers' compensation fund. What that means is your private insurance policy from back home, it is not valid here. For any employees you have working in Wyoming, you absolutely must get coverage directly from the state's fund. Seriously, there are no exceptions to this. So beyond all the state-level stuff, you also have to think small. You have to think local. Individual cities and towns all across Wyoming have their own contractor licensing and bonding requirements, and these apply to everybody, whether you're a resident or not. And these local rules are definitely not one size fits all. A project in Jackson or Sheridan, for instance, requires a $10,000 bond, but over in Gillette, it's $5,000. In Lander, it's just $2,000. The main takeaway here is crystal clear. You have got to check the specific rules for every single town you plan to work in. All right, let's pull the lens back a little bit and get some perspective. How do Wyoming's rules really stack up against the other states in the Mountain West? You know, this comparison is really telling. Just look at that non-resident bond column. Wyoming is the only state here that specifically requires a state-level wage bond just for non-resident employers. Sure, other states like Idaho and Utah have bonds for everyone, but Wyoming's targeted approach is totally unique in the region. And honestly, It's why so many out-of-state companies get caught by surprise. Whew, we've covered a lot of ground. So let's bring it all together into a simple, actionable plan. This is your step-by-step guide to getting compliant as a non-resident contractor working in Wyoming. Here you go. Step 1. Register your business as a foreign entity with the Wyoming Secretary of State. Step 2. If it applies to you, file your wage bond with the Department of Workforce Services. Step 3. You've got 10 days from the contract award to register your project with the Excise Tax Division. Step 4. Post your 4% sales tax bond with the Department of Revenue. Step 5. Get that mandatory workers' comp coverage from Wyoming's state fund. And last but not least, Step 6. Apply for all the required licenses and bonds in each and every city where you'll be working. And that really says it all. Wyoming offers some incredible opportunities, but success really does start with being prepared. Taking the time to understand and navigate all these compliance rules, that's the foundational first step to making sure your project runs smoothly right from day one. To get any of the bonds we've talked about in this explainer, you can get a surety bond quote in just a few minutes at buysuretybonds.com.